Welcome to another episode of Just One More Fix. This is James. With me in this episode is Kurt and Lacey.
Hey.
Hello. You can find us online at justonemorefix.com or on Twitter at JustOneMoreFix. If you like us, head over to iTunes or to Google Play and give us a rating and a comment. In this episode, episode 12, we're going to talk about games that we want to run but haven't run yet and just geek out a little bit. And now, it's time to get our gaming fix. Welcome to Just More Fix. One announcement. We are going to run a small contest with some giveaway stuff here. Should
awesome
be
stuff
coming out. We'll be dropping the details and that kind of stuff for it in the next couple weeks on the website. And also you'll hear about it on the podcast when we actually launch it. So just look out and listen up for details for that. In the past few episodes, we've kind of talked about some heavy and deep gaming issues, some philosophical stuff, and it's been a little heavy. So I
left
thought,
us with a certain sense of awe.
right, yeah, always. So, God, I love that word. So it kind of totally derailed me there.
You're still thinking about it.
Always, such a great word. So
right
anyway,
along with our topic, words we'd like to use more often and just haven't done.
always. I'm just gonna sit here and say that all day. So we're gonna geek out and talk about some games that we want to run but haven't. And maybe a little bit as to why we haven't run those games, because for me, there's actually some specific things and some ways to try and tackle that stuff. So, who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Ooh,
Right
I
on.
just thought I have a second one too.
Oh,
I could do this all day, actually.
I could go all night on stuff I haven't run. All right, so the thing that now James had mentioned this months ago, and I was like, yeah. I was in the middle of my gaming funk, and I couldn't think about anything except the Black Pit of Despair. But now I've picked up Legend of the Five Rings, 4th edition. And I kind of fell in love with it. I had sort of like a whirlwind romance as I read the main book. Probably took the last 2 or 3 days and just blew through the core book. It's a fantastic setting. I love the feel of it. The mechanic looks like it reflects the universe just wonderfully. And then I realized there were about 15 more books to read just to really get the feel of it. And then I look at the character sheet. And it was 5 pages long. I don't mean the character worksheet. I mean the character sheet was 5 pages long. If you don't know what Legends of the Five Rings are, it's a sort of Japanese and like Korean and,
Like Chinese
and
Empire.
Chinese Empire all smashed into one. It's medieval fantasy.
So it doesn't actually have anything to do with the Olympics at all.
No.
No. So you haven't read the book. So I'm going to try not to judge because I was in your shoes just a couple days ago. But it's this wonderful setting with all of this rich detail and all of these kind of, ripped from real life history pieces that they've thrown in. And just, it's a mashup and it's wonderful. But the reason why I haven't even considered writing a story for it yet is it scares the bejesus out of me.
But why?
Because it looks like it has a Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition level of detail.
Yeah, it
going
is.
on.
The crunch is very crunchy. It's a terrible
it's got extra
alliteration there, but
it's got extra fiber. Let's put it this way,
Right.
folks. It's going to make you incredibly regular if you were to eat it. It's so very detailed. There's 5 rings of basic attributes, and there's like 3 attributes inside each attribute.
right, yeah. Thematically, it fits together very well. They did a very good job of the way the system and the setting all kind of
Earth,
mesh together.
wind, air, fire, and the void,
Right.
which is
So-
kind of like the magic. And
Coming from a person who's been gaming from a long time, started with a system that was pretty crunchy, has done significant levels of character creation, and has in fact created his own homebrew systems. The system is what scares you.
No, but see, to be fair,
well,
Kurt's
I mean, that must be
game,
like a special kind
Kurt's,
of terrifying.
no.
because-
Kurt's game that he's made isn't that crunchy. There's very definite rules to it, but like the level of depth of the crunch is it's fundamentally it's a pretty simple and like elegant design, I guess you might say.
I would
Whereas
say elegant, yeah.
whereas well, I was embellishing. It's okay.
What?
No, I'm kidding. So
Man.
L5R though, like it's thick, like 30 thick. You know, like it's very.
There's a lot of individual rules about how things interact and synergies about how rules interact with other rules. And if you are one type of character from this house with this specific focus, your focuses and feats and basically, for lack of a better term, and motivations, they do this with these things, and it's just
it's very.
It's intimidating,
robust, and that's not like
it's not meant to be a knock. They've gone to
right. I say that, and I like Hackmaster, which
oh my God.
might be like in Aces and Eights. Like I like those things, but I have to be in the right mood for them, I suppose.
Yeah,
but I mean, it is.
So your kind of sticking point is you feel like if you don't have a complete mastery of the system, then it's going to be something you're going to be able to run well.
No, because I want to tell this. If I do, and I even sat down and I thought to myself, if I were to make NPCs, because the world is set out already, the map is drawn for me, which usually is like the first 3 weeks. Okay, so right there, they saved me about 90 or 100 man hours worth of drawing and writing. Just to make NPCs, it's one of these things I feel like I would be tripping over my feet trying to run the combat actions.
Right.
And I think that's where you can destroy your story.
Well, the other thing is that's a game where it matters because while L5R isn't a combat-focused game because it's all but really it's mostly about building the tension until the combat happens because the combat it's very final. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, and then EI Jitsu sort of battles, the duels themselves is an entirely different thing.
The other thing is though is
death.
You're playing like Supreme Warriors,
right? Samurai and that kind of stuff.
Honor.
So, but the thing is, if my character and Kurt's character have this honor duel that's going to happen, I have to petition my lord, and he has to petition his lord to get permission for us to engage in a duel because we're not technically free people. So there's a lot of social pressure and that kind of stuff built into the game. So while it's combat is a big part of it, it's also it's
also secondary. Which is why, I'll be honest, I was thinking of a ninja campaign. Well,
the thing, what I'm trying to get to is those...
Yeah, you want to play it.
If you're going to do that, that combat is a secondary part, but when it happens, it's very impactful. And you don't want it to be so bogged down that you're like, oh, when do I get to roll again? You know what I mean? Like, when is this going to end kind of a thing?
It's practically, you roll to draw the saya back from the Tsutsuba as you draw. It's...
So it's not all like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, off the cuff, kung fu fighting. It's more like what's the movie with the Keanu Reeves and then the samurais and there's like
57 Ronin.
Yeah,
47 Ronin.
More like whatever that movie is. Where there's more honor in the death and it's all very socially involved as well.
It's very much towards like the traditional samurai.
It's more like
mythos.
It's not like a kung fu movie so much as
it's 13 Assassins.
A samurai movie.
Yeah, very much so.
And there's a lot of buildup that needs to happen, and I don't feel like I could do the story justice without knowing pretty much all the rules just out of the gate. Because
is it a game that you could like? I make this suggestion to a lot of people online. I don't know if it's always the right one because
advice online. How could that go wrong?
Sometimes people like I really like this game and this world, but I don't like the system, and I say, well, just use Fate because it's so easy. And while it's like. Sometimes I feel like that works for some games, but not for all, because for certain games like 7th Sea, if you're not using the 7th Sea system, you're not really playing 7th Sea.
Yeah.
So you're just playing some knockoff swashbuckling game, basically, that's probably not as good. So, but is that what would be? Because I feel like with L5R, that's a great example of what would be happening.
Okay, so number one, what would happen is that the entire flavor of the whole notion of those 5 rings of the elements plus the void.
Yeah, without the 5 rings, you're not playing.
It destroys, but the 5 rings
right.
all have these. It's one of these things where whoever sat down, and had an epiphany when they first wrote it and created a universe in which the statistics of the characters are integral to the actual plot of the story. It defines your statistics, define not only who but what you are and why you do what you do. And so, but I am determined. I'm determined that after we do the Diaspora sci-fi, that one day I will have an L5R campaign. But that is why it scares me. You know what? It scares you like a real Iaijutsu duel should scare you, because if you win, you're going to win epically, but if you lose, you'll be sliced open by your players, probably.
Right on. Lacey?
All right. So my epic game that I have not run yet is Shadows of Sturn. So Shadows of Sturn is a game put out by Agate. I hope I'm saying that right. Agate RPG. And it is just an absolutely beautiful world with like so much built into it. So
The artwork is awesome.
First of all, the artwork is awesome. The people that put this book together put together like a list of songs that you can download for background music.
It's complete,
for your,
dude. They've got like music tracks and all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
And actually,
Now, wait, is this like a medieval fantasy? What is this?
It's kind of a medieval fantasy, so low magic, but there's almost a little bit of I don't want to say steampunk necessarily, but there's like a scientist alchemist
kind of
group that has some higher tech stuff, and then there's also sort of this low advancement civilization, but it's more like what's the word I'm thinking of? Like almost like a druid society. So there's some inherent like nature worship, and then there's also a group that is like your inquisitors, sort of like your Roman Catholic,
like old school,
like medieval society, and it's all three of these in different sections of the world that are at odds. And there's they don't call them they call them Fund, I believe it is, but almost like a werewolf, sort of beast in the darkness kind of bad guy, and they've created this whole entire world and all of this social conflict, and it is just beautifully done. And the book it reads well, but I just honestly I haven't even gotten to the system even to know what it is, because
get bogged down in the flavor text.
Well, it's so good.
It's such a rich world that I'm afraid that if I don't get intimately familiar with the world itself, that I'm not going to be able to do the game justice. And there's so many different angles you can approach it from, and so much flavor text that you need to have ahead of time.
Right.
I mean, this is book one, and the whole entire first book is universe. And I mean, there's
just
like a
background.
character sheet, and there's some system that talks in here, but there's like I think I have the first 3 books, and then there's another like 2 that they put out at this last Gen Con. And I was actually brought into the game initially because I bought the board game Black Rose, and that board game is based off some of the characters. It's set in this world, but like a certain portion of this world. So obviously that's kind of the religious, old school Catholicism sort of bit of the world.
If you had to give us a movie or a TV show or something that could give us if you had to encapsulate it like that, I mean, I don't mean exactly, but because L5R obviously has magic and that sort of stuff, but if you wanted to know what it was like, I would say go watch the remake of 13 Assassins. What would this be?
Because there's the conflict of the 3 different sections, I guess.
Not here.
Certain aspects remind me of different things. So the movie Black Plague, I guess, kind of comes to mind because there's a little bit of that witchcraft and religion element.
Sean Bean's in it. Really, it's so good.
He dies, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Okay. Spoiler. It's like Leonardo DiCaprio. He dies in every movie too. So,
a little bit of Game of Thrones, maybe, because you have the kind of the Valyrian. What do they call the Valerian, kind of with a little bit of sorcery there, and the faceless.
Right.
Are there goblins in this?
No, there are no goblins. There's the Fund, which I talked about, and I hope I'm not saying the word incorrectly, but that I said is kind of like the werewolf sort of beast in the darkness thing. But other than that, it's all just very
do I get dragons?
Like remote nature. No, there are no dragons. None of that.
No fireballs?
It's very
Brotherhood of the Wolf.
I've never seen.
That's a good movie.
Never even heard of that.
Never heard of it either.
Honest.
Heathens.
Well, there you go. But so it's very low fantasy.
Low fantasy,
like,
but like I said, there are some aspects of like alchemy, almost steampunk sort of architecture and electricity that's worked in with like these. It's their version of magic. It's like technology magic kind of.
Okay.
So it's like sort of techno magic versus hardcore religion versus nature druid people all
Now,
together
are the gods
in this
real?
rich world.
Are there clerics healing people and throwing
Yes.
curses? And
Yes,
okay.
like the gods are real. There's some crazy things that each of the groups can do based on their abilities, and it's kind of like the druid people are sort of dying out, so sort of nature is receding kind of thing. So you get like that with the Game of Thrones, the wildlings and the White Walkers, and
The old
so I would say
religion,
it's
yeah.
similar to that, except you don't have the dragons in that. You've got like these werewolf type things,
Something
but
that's
it's
cool
still
about
that
it
same
that I
level of
think-
sort of low magic fantasy world.
Something that I think is neat that they have done, like you said, is our goblins and dragons and stuff. Something I think that they did, instead of putting focus into having all these extra creature types in there, they spent that effort and focus into making the cultures and the setting more robust.
Okay.
Instead of, because like it's very well thought out and well built and well put together.
There is a ton of social conflict built into it because it's basically there was this big war between these factions, and now there's a tentative peace
Like a détente.
between the areas where they've decided not to fight, and then there's this also kind of separation. So this is not the entire world. This is one like continent or peninsula,
corner
if you
of
will.
it. Wow.
And it's segregated from the rest of the world by this mountain range. So there's like these
Like the Himalayas,
fairy
basically.
tales,
Okay.
almost like legends of people that have crossed the mountains, and that's how these kind of techno magic people got here in the first place. And so now it's like, oh, you can't really cross the mountains, but there's sort of the option that maybe you could, play that out later on. And
Okay. So what sort of stories am I playing? So I play in this game. You're going to write a story. What am I going to do in this world? What is the
I think it's more social political, but there is the option of kind of defending the realm against these supernatural creatures too. So there's so much in this world that really your players can decide what it is
It's
that they want to
very
play.
big.
Like,
very
do you
big.
want to be
Yeah.
kind of druids defending nature against the encroaching civilization? Do you want to be religious inquisitors? Do you want to be these technology, alchemy, science guys?
Right. It's so like each of the three things are so like diametrically opposed to each other.
I don't think
It
you're going to
doesn't,
play a
like-
game with mixed factions.
Yeah.
So you could maybe play a group of travelers that go back and forth, kind of classic D&D adventurers, but most likely you're going to be everybody is from this one faction.
A party of bards.
And the rest of the world and the text that they give you is more like to create social and political conflict that's going to arise for you later on. And I am not somebody that does a lot of social political conflict in my game, first of all, and I'm not big on system either. And I know this does have a lot more system than I used to, even though I haven't gotten to that
It's
part
not too
fully.
bad though. It's 1d10 and you add some modifiers. It's not that bad. I didn't look at the
it's
combat
more than
part of
fate.
It's
I'm used to like you roll some dice and I just kind of make
aren't
up
even
what I'm going to do
numbers
from
on
there.
those
You know what
dice.
I mean?
Yeah.
Just wing it. You'll be all right. Whatever.
See how many pluses turn up.
There's a certain amount of studying that has to go into this
Right.
before I can. So I guess, it's basically there is so much world and no experience in that world. So there's nothing to draw from. It's not like, okay, we're in the Game of Thrones setting or we're in the Lord of the Rings setting.
You can watch
or,
a couple movies or a season and you
right,
know what
there's
you're doing.
nothing there. Like you have to devote the time to familiarize yourself with all of this based just on the text. And more of what's holding me back right now is I
Time.
use mundane life. So I have a full-time job and I'm in school right now for my
Medical school,
master's degree.
Basically.
So I just don't have as much time as I would like to fully dedicate myself to this to be able to run it and do it justice.
See, now, that's the one thing I find surprising, that the medical school would be so hard. I mean, it's
not
one of those
medical
things.
school. Exactly.
But
nurse practitioner school. But at any rate,
yeah, it's more than I'm willing
basically
to do.
the setting is just so beautiful and robust that I don't want to half-ass it. I
No.
want to.
No,
Right.
because
I want to
if
be
you
able to
screw
give
up,
the
yeah.
attention it deserves.
The other thing is too is when if you do kind of like
It's a lot of
you don't
stress.
do it justice. If you want to try and come back to it again, it's twice as hard to try and convince people to try it again. Because like, yeah, I
because
don't
of the
know.
shame.
I'd rather do this something
Yeah.
else. Well, I mean, it's like they're just not as interested. Like, oh, we could do that thing. It was okay, but there's new hotness here, and I would rather do new hotness because
Yeah.
I could go with new hotness, or I could go with mediocre from the past So they picked New Hotness.
So I will do this in the future when I have more time to dedicate to it, because it is just such a beautiful world and a beautiful storyline that it's definitely something I want to visit and hang out in this world. But
well, as far as like letting it sit and getting to it eventually, I am the king of buying role-playing games and getting back to them 3 years later, as I have done with Burning Wheel. I think I've had Burning Wheel for, I don't even know, several years and not really gotten to play it until actually just recently I ran my first Burning Wheel game, which really kind of trailed off and died. Sad day. That's my fault, though. That's a whole other discussion. So, all right. So for me, I've got two of them up here. One of them is going to be kind of quick. One of them that I want to run is Inspectors, and it is basically a Ghostbusters reality show kind of game. Basically, you play a Ghostbusters franchise, and you get ghosts. It's a comedy game, though. That's the thing about it. It's a comedy game, and you actually are supposed to set up a seat away from. It's like you're supposed to be part of a reality show. Okay. Like it's like reality TV.
Gosh.
So you have like the confessional. So there's supposed to be a seat away from the gaming table where like you can get up and run to the confessional, and you go over there and the camera goes on just that, and it's like
narrate what your character's
thinking. Like the cutscenes in a like there's the conflict between the two people on the beach or whatever on Survivor or whatever show, and then it cuts away to the confessional part, and they're like, well, Susie was so mean to me and she sold the lizard and whatever,
So when I went to zap the ghost and didn't realize that there was an oxygen tank behind that,
that's exactly what it is. So this is more because I'm struggling to find a way to run it because I understand Ghostbusters, I get it, but I am not sure that I know how to run a comedy game per se.
Well, you ran World of Darkness for 20 years?
Yeah.
So
that's actually the exact same thing that's keeping me from running the other one that I was thinking of.
What's that?
The Discworld game.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, it's GURPS system. I feel like you could easily transfer it into another system if I didn't want to learn the GURPS system.
You don't want
to
learn the GURPS system.
I know the Discworld world, but I just have a hard time figuring out. Well, I think you probably could, but I just have a hard time figuring out how to run that game and give it the appropriate humor and satire of the Discworld.
Well, mostly, I feel like
you need the ghost of Sir Terry Pratchett in order to make it funny.
Well, the thing, like most of what gaming is it's, horror is very popular, adventure very popular, investigation, mystery, comedy. It's not, not among them. The other thing is comedy is not easy.
Oh gosh,
like if it was, everybody would be stand-up comedians.
Yeah,
and then it's like make up a joke. They're never good. You know what I mean? They're just not. But so because
that was though, and
it
just I don't know why.
I'm above average. It's okay. So no, but like it's just not easy to do, especially in an ad lib kind of a way. Where you're. Improvisational theater kind of a thing,
Well, and like
it's
with
just not
fantasy,
easy.
You can do mediocre fantasy and still find it enjoyable. You can't do mediocre comedy and
nobody.
Like it's either it's good or it's not good.
No one wants to sit around and have soft chuckles. That
was kind of funny.
That was mildly amusing.
Yeah,
are we entirely? Are you going to have another confessional so we can all kind of sadly laugh to ourselves again?
Or it'd be like, I don't know, it would be entirely adequate. You could just, yeah.
So the other one that I actually is a bigger hurdle for me is I want to run, is World of Dew, and it's a samurai noir game, I guess you might say, but it takes place at the changeover of Japan when they're starting to modernize and they're going from the traditional, feudal Japan to the,
just before the
modernized
restoration. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's. I like the idea of the game because it's this clash of two hugely competing cultures of, this traditional kind
old
of thing.
Old school versus new school.
Right, with this. But it's not even just that, because it's like old versus new, but it's also foreign versus domestic, because like the traditional side of it is the Japanese culture themselves, and then the more modern side of it is the outsiders coming in and giving them, influencing architecture and fashion and technology, like every aspect of life.
Politics.
Gets drastically changed during this time period of Japan's, history. And it's a noir game, which I just am a big fan of noir as it is, especially in role playing. The system is way different because you basically get to say things that are true when you go to do tasks, which is just, that's a hurdle for me. But it's not so big now because as time has gone by, I kind of transitioned to playing more of these indie games. So when I first started doing this would be no way I could do it. It took me a long time to play a lot of indie games to kind of get that shifting gears of mindset to be able to do those. And now it's not such a hurdle. That's not what's holding me back.
Let me ask you, did you ever a Kurt Mouseguard moment where I just okay, so I had this moment.
Mine was not like that explosive moment. Mine was a death by 1,000 cuts.
Okay.
Like it was a lot of reading and watching things and listening and actual plays and stuff to finally get to it, because no one in our circle really played a lot of indie games.
Yeah.
So like I was like, I really want to play these games because they look so good. I just don't know how. So I sort of got there.
Give a more optimistic analogy.
No, I don't. No.
You make it sound painful and unpleasant, this process.
Well,
like a really powerful bowel movement.
Right. But
I mean, when you get there, it's good. It's just the process.
Right. So, but it just took a while to get my head wrapped around the idea of more of the storytelling style RPG as opposed to like a D&D, a 30 second edition, that kind of a game.
2d6 plus multipliers.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then the other thing for me with this is Japan is like, and specifically feudal Japan is such a drastically different culture than obviously what I've been exposed to. The stories are different, and I really like some of them are just they're new to me. They're new to me.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I find it very
the
interesting.
Mindset.
Yeah, it's just so drastically different, and that's something that I find compelling and makes me want to run it. But it's also something that I find makes it hard for me to run because, like you said with Shadows of Estron, I want to do it justice. And
it's difficult because you have to learn this whole new world and all of the new surroundings in it. And then I have to not only know it myself, I have to know it well enough
to convey it to other people.
To get you and completely wrapped up in that world also, which is a big leap.
Yeah, I agree. So that's
synthesis, I believe we call that in education.
We have to be simpatico.
Yeah.
I think on the bright side, I think I've only had this game for 2 years.
That's about how long I've had Shadows.
So
we're on the 5-year plan here.
Well,
easy there, old man.
I'm dying here. So, like for me, like I know I will eventually get to it because all the other games that I have, we've actually are coming up on now, where most of them we've played, except for
this one. We're actually closer, I have to say, because some of our group sat down and made characters
Yeah,
in this game.
Whoa.
Yeah, we had two characters made, and
at least until there's one thing
come down.
There's one thing that could stand in your way. And it's very important. That is Gen Con next year when you buy 10 more games.
I know. This is the curse of my life. Although I'm getting better about it. Not about not buying the games.
I was just going to say, what?
I'm getting better at buying the games and playing them faster. That's actually...
within half a decade.
Well, no. It's really not that bad because like I'm up to the most of the games that I've bought within the last year or two. But
wow.
And I don't know that's... Because some of them I buy them and I don't think I'll play them because I buy them more to absorb the system and
just to read the world.
Yeah, the game design behind it and the philosophy, because it's something that I've learned with a lot of these story games is
that.
I've just absorbed so much more, and it's changed the stories that I tell and the way that I game, the things that I do. So
I'll play in all those games though.
Right, yeah. Well. All right, so right on. So L5R, Shadows of Estron, World of Dew and Inspectors. Hopefully awesome games to come in the next year, 2017, maybe. We'll see.
We hope to review them one day.
Yeah. Yeah.
But hey, if anybody out there listening to this has played any of these games and has some good tips for us, or let us know how it went, how you liked the games, drop us a line.
Right Thanks. On. Cool. So yeah, it was nice to geek out about something that wasn't so dreadfully serious. Gaming.
Earnest.
Yeah. All right, right on. So yeah.
All right, talk to you guys later.
Have a good time.
Right on.
Real high.
Thanks for listening. This has been another episode of Just One More Fix. Music has been provided by Kevin MacLeod. You can find him at incompetech.com. You can find us at justonemorefix.com and follow us on Twitter at Just One More Fix.